The movie begins with the protesters crowding the City Hall building, where Governor Sandro Correa has his office. It is known that Governor Correa has been named a suspect in a case of embezzling state money aimed at buying hospital equipment that is desperately needed by the community. A few days earlier, the agents of D.A.E, Special Armed Division, visited the governor's mansion, where they searched and arrested the governor. D.A.E agents named Miguel and Edu then took the governor to the interrogation room, where they confronted the man with a series of evidence related to the embezzlement of money by Governor Correa. Not only that, in one of the recorded evidences, the governor said that he would not hesitate to kill anyone who dared to reveal his actions to the public and the police. Governor Correa even openly poured money to bribe the prosecutor's office, so that he was free from legal snares. Looks like we're dealing with a rotten government. Shortly after, the governor's attorney arrived there, and the man asked how his family was on vacation in Miami. His lawyer then informed him that he had contacted the prosecutor's office, and said that the governor would spend a period of time at home while awaiting trial. Realizing that he would soon be released, Governor Correa then asked his lawyer to prepare his personal guards, because he anticipated the possibility of an attack on him related to the embezzlement case. Because the prosecutor's office determined that the evidence related to the embezzlement of health funds by Governor Correa was insufficient, he was allowed to go home and be placed under house arrest for a while, until the investigation process was completed. Miguel and Edu were then sent home by their commander. Arriving home, Miguel saw his little daughter asleep on the sofa. Miguel then picked up his daughter and moved her to the bed. His daughter wakes up and says good night to Miguel and praises him for her father's hard work catching the criminals. The next day, Miguel plans to take his daughter to a soccer game. Not long after, his ex-wife came to his house to pick up their daughter. Arriving at the office, Miguel received word from his superiors that his division would be decommissioned, and the case of embezzlement of Governor Correa's health fund would be transferred to the military police. Miguel, who had been investigating the embezzlement case for months, then felt angry and disagreed with his superior's decision. However, Miguel had no other choice but to accept his superior's decision and leave the office. Edu then reminds Miguel of his promise to take his daughter to a soccer game. Miguel rushed to meet his daughter, who was waiting with his ex-wife. Even though it was a little late, his daughter seemed so excited because she was going to watch a football match with her father. After wearing the Brazil national team jersey and taking a group photo, Miguel and his daughter then rushed to the stadium on foot. On the way, suddenly his daughter was shot by someone. Miguel rushed his daughter to the hospital for immediate medical attention. The nurses immediately took Miguel's daughter to the emergency room and asked Miguel to wait outside. However, the impatient Miguel then barged in, and while walking along the hospital corridor, Miguel saw a lot of neglected patients due to poor hospital facilities and lack of funds. Miguel later found his daughter lying weak in front of the operating room. Miguel's daughter could not be treated quickly because the hospital did not have many operating facilities, so many patients had to queue up first. Due to lack of blood and not being treated quickly, Miguel's daughter finally died. Shortly after, Miguel's ex-wife arrived at the hospital, and she was shocked to learn that her little daughter had died. Edu, who expresses his deep condolences for the death of Miguel's daughter, then tries to offer Miguel assistance to find clues about his daughter's shooter. However, Miguel did not know the location of the shooter because they passed by many buildings during the incident, so the culprit could be hiding anywhere. On the other hand, Miguel also emphasized that his daughter's death was caused by inadequate hospital facilities. Miguel thinks that his daughter might still be saved if the hospital has more and adequate hospital facilities and equipment, so that patients will not be neglected and suffer until they die. In the midst of his slump, Miguel learned that Governor Correa was found not guilty of the embezzlement of health funds that ensnared him some time ago. After no longer stumbling into legal problems, Correa then publicly announced his candidacy for president, and promised to increase the budget for health and public hospitals to improve the welfare of the Brazilian people. Miguel, who was furious with all of Correa's lies and false promises, then passed through the crowd of demonstrators at the city hall and attacked the policemen tasked with controlling the demonstrations. Miguel's action to paralyze the police by wearing a mask was immediately recorded by one of the demonstrators. After incapacitating Korea's personal guards, Miguel then reaches the man at the town hall and ends up killing the corrupt governor, who is indirectly responsible for his daughter's death. Elsewhere, a billionaire man named Antero Gomez is having a meeting with Minister Marta Regina somewhere. They are discussing about the general election that will be held in the near future. The next day, Gomez held a meeting with his fellow politicians and asked them to fully support his son's candidacy as the presidential candidate to replace Korea. Obviously, Gomez's fellow politicians were shocked by the nomination, because Gomez's son did not have credibility as a president. Hearing this, Gomez became angry and threatened them that he would reveal the corrupt acts of these politicians to Minister Regina. A few days later, Miguel began to return to work, and did not want to dissolve into a deep slump and sorrow after the death of his beloved daughter. Miguel and Edu were then asked to investigate the riots that occurred during the demonstration. The investigative team managed to collect several suspects who were suspected of being the masterminds in the riot, and Miguel apparently knew one of the women who were suspects, where Miguel met the woman while carrying out the action. Not wanting his identity to be exposed, Miguel then took the initiative to offer to interrogate a woman who was later identified as Nina, who is a programmer. Nina, who knows that Miguel is the one who attacked the police, then says that she has a recording of Miguel's actions on her cell phone. Miguel also has no other choice but to free Nina and retrieve the woman's cell phone before being caught by his colleagues. Nina then offers to help Miguel investigate a case of embezzlement of medical funds and hospital equipment, where Miguel thinks that Korea will not be able to do this alone. Sure enough, after Nina hacked into Korea's personal laptop, Miguel found important information about the people involved in the embezzlement case, which were none other than Gomez and his fellow politicians. Without thinking, Miguel then prepared himself, and targeted one by one the corrupt officials and politicians who were also responsible for the death of his little daughter. Miguel then kills them all while wearing the same mask as his disguise. The news of the successive deaths of politicians attracted public attention. Nina, knowing all of this was Miguel's doing, then asked her boss whether the perpetrator of the murder of these corrupt officials could be considered a hero. After that, Miguel went to Nina at work and asked her to find the person who had been funding the campaigns of these corrupt officials with her abilities. Initially, Nina refused, but then Miguel offered to reduce the sentence for Nina's mother, who was in prison after being made a scapegoat. Nina then visits her mother in prison and questions about the value of truth. But her mother replied that the truth is just an illusion, because the truth for one person is not necessarily the same according to another person. After meeting her mother, Nina decides to help Miguel find the person who financed Korea's campaign and other corrupt officials, who is none other than Gomez. Nina then hacks into the surveillance camera system in a building, where Gomez is about to have a meeting with Regina. Meanwhile, Miguel, who doesn't want to be suspected because he often disappears suddenly, then pretends to help Edu, who is investigating a serial murder case that targets corrupt officials. Edu tells Miguel that the killer nicknamed the Awakener is a member of the Special Forces or something, because he is highly trained in using weapons, eliminating traces, and killing someone's life with just one hit. Knowing that his best friend has started to reveal his disguise, Miguel then asks Edu to rest and postpone his work. After helping Edu, Miguel then left to carry out his mission. On the other hand, Edu managed to find out the next Awakener's target, which was none other than Minister Marta Regina. Edu then tried to contact Miguel to inform him of this, and asked him to immediately go to the place where Minister Regina will have a meeting with Gomez. However, because Edu could not reach Miguel, the man then left alone. Arriving there, Edu finally met the Awakener, who was none other than Miguel. Miguel, who did not want to fight Edu, then tried to escape from Edu's pursuit and was shot. Miguel immediately cancelled his mission to kill Regina and left from there. Miguel then meets Nina, who then treats Miguel's wound. The next day, Miguel and Edu presented the results of their investigation in front of all their colleagues, where both managed to obtain evidence that Minister Regina had collaborated with Antero Gomez, who was the person who had funded the campaign of these corrupt officials. Miguel and Edu, together with a team of investigators, decided to investigate Minister Regina. However, not long after, their superiors came and rejected all the investigation results that had been carried out by Miguel and Edu. The man also said that they should stop the investigation into Minister Regina, which would indicate that their superiors had been bribed by Gomez. Miguel is annoyed with his superior's decision, then decides to execute Gomez with his own hands. Meanwhile, at the Gomez residence, he was seen having dinner with several other officials who had great influence in the government. Gomez's son seemed to be there too, and the young man seemed uncomfortable in the company of these officials and politicians. Gomez's son then excused himself for a moment, where the young man then met his mother and revealed that he was not ready to become a president, but he wanted to make his father proud, so he agreed when his father asked him. Gomez, who heard this, then tried to calm and encourage his son. However, unbeknownst to them, Miguel was already somewhere and then shot Gomez's son, killing him. Miguel deliberately kills Gomez's son to make the man learn and admit his guilt. But as it turned out, Gomez instead used his son's death as an opportunity to gain public sympathy and nominate himself as the new presidential candidate, replacing his son. On the other hand, it turns out that Gomez has also been involved in investigating the deaths of his colleagues by ordering his lawyer, a man named Siqueira, to conduct an investigation. Siqueira finally found out that the Awakener had a partner. Thinking that Nina's boss was the Awakener's partner, Siqueira then killed the man. Not long after, Nina arrives at her workplace and finds that her boss has died. The frightened Nina then rushed to Miguel's hiding place. However, unbeknownst to her, Nina turned out to have been followed by Siqueira's thugs, who immediately stormed Miguel's hideout and launched a barrage of attacks. In the chaos, Siqueira manages to take Nina hostage and offers Miguel a deal to save Nina's life. Siqueira then ordered Miguel to kill another presidential candidate, namely Julia Machado. Miguel also has no other choice but to obey Siqueira's request to save Nina. Not long after, the police came to Miguel's hiding place, where local residents reported that a shootout had taken place. Edu and his team, who also went there to conduct an investigation, finally found out that the place was where the Awakener was hiding. However, one thing that surprised Edu more was the identity of the Awakener, who was none other than his best friend. Edu found out about this after finding Miguel's cell phone there. Knowing that the Awakener is targeting Gomez, Edu immediately rushes to the location of the presidential candidate debate, where Miguel also heads there to kill Julia. Arriving at the debate location, Miguel is preparing to kill Julia, although Julia is an honest politician. However, just as Miguel was about to shoot Julia, Edu appeared and immediately stopped him. The two get into a fierce fight, but try not to kill each other. Edu tells Miguel to stop all his actions, because for Edu, Miguel is the same as the corruptors if he continues to take these actions. But Miguel didn't care. On the other hand, Nina, who was being held captive by Siqueira, realized that he was off guard, and then fought back until she managed to seriously injure Siqueira. Miguel is later arrested for the murder of corrupt officials. Edu then brought Miguel's ex-wife, hoping that she could persuade Miguel. His ex-wife said that their daughter would be very embarrassed to learn of Miguel's current acts of vigilantism, and would not feel proud of her father. Through television broadcasts inside the prison, Miguel learns that Antero Gomez got better points due to his son's death, which makes the public sympathize with him and turn to support him. When Miguel is about to be interrogated, one of Miguel's superiors, Deputy D.A.E, tries to kill Miguel. But Miguel managed to turn things around and kill the man. Knowing that Antero Gomez is getting closer to the presidency, Miguel then escapes from prison, then preparing weapons and ammunition to launch his revenge once again. Miguel immediately rushed to the Parliament building, where Gomez and his fellow politicians were enjoying a temporary victory celebration as Gomez managed to beat Julia in points. Without thinking, Miguel then stormed the Parliament building and massacred all of Gomez's men and colleagues. When he finally confronts Gomez in his office, he tells Miguel that corruption will not disappear from the world, because greed is a basic human trait. Miguel, who was fed up, then shot Gomez to death. After killing Gomez, Miguel is confronted by Gomez's men who surround him at gunpoint. However, Miguel came there with careful preparation and planning, where Miguel had already prepared a bomb that he placed in his car. Miguel then pressed the bomb detonator, and immediately, the building exploded and razed to the ground, along with Miguel inside. The next day, when the police and forensics team combed the crime scene, they only found the mask that had been worn by the Awakener, but did not find Miguel's body. The film ends by showing the figure of the Awakener who is preparing to shoot his target from the top of the building. It is unknown whether the Awakener is Miguel who survived the explosion, or someone else who decided to continue his mission to eradicate the corruptors. The moral of this film is, basically greed, sooner or later, will only lead to misery and suffering. Not only for others, but also for yourself. However, vigilantism cannot be justified, even though they argue that corruptors can by the law. There are many ways to fight for justice, but not with violence that ends in death.
If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. You should watch the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more video like this.